Just last week, when I was walking down the street, I observed a lovely lawyer that I wanted to meet. I walked up to him and I said, "Hello." He said, "You look awfully smart." I said, "Yes, I know, but you like that?"
I do like that. Did you just come up with that off the top of your head?
No.
Or?
Just last week, when I was walking down the street, I observed a lovely lady that I wanted to meet. She said, "It's Fresh Prince."
Okay. Is that the rest of the song?
She said, "You're kind of cute." I said, "Yes, I know, but by the way, sweetheart, what's your name?" She said, "My friends all call me the exotic Elaine." I said, "My name is Prince." She said, "Why?" I go, "I don't know. I'm just a hell of a guy."
You know, I've only heard that song from the credits, the opening credits of that show.
That's my best DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh
It's pretty
Prince.
good.
Yeah.
I was sitting there going, that sounds like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of two mockeries, of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free!
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth!
Hello, everybody. It's time for more Law Light, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. We are, again, being kicked out of the conference room.
Yeah.
We're back in the old digs again one more time because there's depositions going on down there, and we're trying to squeeze this old bad boy in whenever we can.
I tried to go in there and say, pause.
We have some podcasting to do.
We have something more important than whatever it is you all are doing.
Probably. But anyhow, we are situated in just a different area of the the high-rise white brick, two-story white brick edifice.
Right.
We have a podcast to do today.
Yes, we do.
I got a few things to talk about. First, I want to give you a little nod. You want a nod? I can give you a nod.
Sure, I'll take any kind of nod I can
As
get.
we've mentioned on the podcast several times, when we discover where a wreck occurs, we send you out to scour the area for potential video surveillance. And so today we sent you out to the intersection right there in front of Malco because of a wreck that happened, which, you know, a lot of times I see where wrecks happen. I'm like, oh, I could see how a wreck happened here. But that intersection there is like wide.
It's
open.
Yeah, there's no trees. There's nothing blocking your line of sight.
No.
It's basically a four-way stop in the middle of a field.
That's what it was. It was a field, right? And these are the two main intersecting roads that are kind of bringing all the shopping together, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not crowded. It's like it's wide open there. And lo and behold, a car just went right through the stop sign and hit our client.
And there was like 3 or 4 cars in front of them that were stopping as it was coming up. Stop, go, stop, go, stop, go, just go.
Yeah, this one just went and tagged our client. And you were able to secure the video, so kudos.
Thank you.
And it obviously helps our client. Kind of seals up the liability issue because you have a picture of it happening in real time.
Kind of hard to refute that.
Second thing that I want to give you a nod for. Another
Ooh,
nod.
2 nods in one day.
Naughty.
two nods on one pod. This is turning into the nod pod.
The nod pod.
They can't all be golden nuggets, but you know.
Another nod for your video production on the Owensboro Dance Theater.
Assuming they like it.
Well, I don't care if they like it or not, frankly. I hope they're listening to this, and I'm going to tell them they better like it because I liked it.
I'm extremely proud of how it turned out.
You even took, not we, you, in your discretion.
It's still a team effort.
Took the drone inside a building and sent it up to get some did you have permission?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
So we can say...
No, I did have permission.
We can say, okay, so you...
I reached out to Rich Jorn.
Thank you, Rich Jorn.
Who runs the River Park Center.
River Park Center. And so... did he say whether anybody else had sent a drone up in that building before?
He did not.
Right. Okay.
I didn't see. I messaged him on Facebook, and he got right back to me and said it was fine. I didn't see him when I went.
Did he ask to see your liability policy?
He did not, but there was nobody else in there.
So you go over to the River Park Center, which for those that aren't from Owensboro, that listened. That's it's a nice theater. I think it seats about 4,000.
It might be.
I can't remember.
I would say at least 2,000. There's
Yeah.
a lot of seats in Cannon Hall.
It does have a balcony, and then it's got the full stage with you know.
It's a really
full
nice
production.
theater.
It is a nice theater, but the drone went up and got some cool footage and inside. So
Thank you. Even though it's a drone shot moving through, the effect and everything I put on it almost looks like a still photo but moving somehow.
It almost has a 3D effect. It almost
Yeah.
has a 3D, like it's coming out at you. It's really cool. So good job on that. And,
Thank you.
And again, we probably haven't talked about this in a while, so we probably need to bring it back up. But our firm does these videotape. Not tape.
Well,
our firm does.
if someone requests it, maybe.
We produce the videos. PJ is in charge of all of that for nonprofits, and we do it free of charge for them as a service to the community so that they can use it for fundraisers and for different events. And I don't know. I've lost track. This has got to be close to.
I think it's like the 9th one. Close.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like 8th or 9th,
And-
but we still have several more, and we still haven't heard back from Swycac.
Swycac needs to get on the ball. So if Swycacs are listening, you need to get on the ball.
That's right.
So, yeah, I had totally forgotten about that. Good job on the dance theater video.
Thank
Okay.
you. I'll let you know what they say.
If they don't like it, you tell them just buzz me up.
I know it's, I have a biased opinion, or at least you would think I would. Yeah. I didn't fully know how this was going to come together. This was the second one where I was like, I'm not, because of the script that they sent initially, there was such little context to what was being said. I had to send it back to them with questions. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about here. I don't know what you're talking about here. Do you have any examples? Or there really wasn't a whole lot to it. And then they took to the script and they got it figured out.
Got it.
That's what came out of it. So I was really happy with that. I think that and the Boys and Girls Club are the two that I'm most proud of.
Just in case you haven't noticed, the theme of our podcast today is I'm going to give you another nod.
Oh, the 3-nod pod.
So here it is. I just gave you another
That's the
nod.
title for this episode, 3-nod pod.
Well, it is another nod. Don't think we've mentioned this on the podcast, but we have a new series on social media, video series. The video series is called The Ride Along, and it's with it's a ride along with me through town. Yep. There are 7 different episodes, we believe. Is that what?
Yeah, there's 7 episodes.
7 episodes, and today the first one dropped.
Yep.
Well, last week we did like a little teaser. What's that called? A trailer?
It's just a teaser.
Little teaser.
Little teaser trailer.
Teaser trailer. Yeah, teaser trailer.
Oh, jeez.
So we did the teaser trailer and piqued people's curiosity when their curiosity had just probably reached a point of all-time high. I mean, it was probably that point of epiphany.
We melted their faces.
We brought it down, dropped it low.
That's right.
And today was the first episode. And it was good. It was
I thought it turned out really well,
too. It was really
too.
good. And this one, I guess you could call it what our mission is. I think you titled it The Mission. And
Our Mission.
Our Mission talks a little bit about why my faith is important in my practice of law and sort of our entire community focus and kind of the backdrop for what the whole ride along is going to kind of.
Oh, I just came up with an even better title for it. I wished I had thought about it.
What? The 4-nod pod?
Faith in Practice.
Put your faith in action. Wear a great big smile. Hey, what was the name of the church that Kenny preached at?
Mount Eden Baptist.
Yesterday, when we were doing jury selection in my trial, there was a guy who had significant dealings with cemetery issues in the jury pool. And so I was like, okay, well, how did you get so much experience in cemetery issues? And he had been the preacher at Mount Eden.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know how long Kenny's been there, but this guy, I think he said it was approximately 12 years ago that he was there.
They have a cemetery attached right now.
Right.
Like it's right attached to the church.
Right. So a little news there. You said something as we were coming in here, and I'm going to kind of shift gears. You said, hey, the hurricane is now a Category 3.
Hurricane Ian. I'm so nasally.
I can't wait until there's Hurricane Perry.
I don't think there ever will be.
Yes, there will be.
There's already a Hurricane Perry, and he's sitting right here. Boom!
We're going to talk about hurricanes because I have a little bit of information that you may not know about me.
Maybe not.
Have you lived Have you lived through a hurricane?
Yes. I've gone through 3. Hurricane Charlie, which was that hurricane, like a Category 5.
I forgot you lived in Florida for a period.
A very short period.
That's
of time.
right. And you shared this story on the podcast, haven't you? About how it like
ripped the roof off and water was coming out of light sockets and light switches and stuff. Yeah.
Let me ask you about that. I grew up in the Panhandle of Florida in Pensacola, or outside Pensacola.
Right.
And notorious area. They call it Hurricane Alley, how the hurricanes just comes right around the tip of Florida, then shoots straight up and hits the Panhandle. It seemed like every year we were bracing for one of those.
Yeah. Well, that's where Ian's coming from, up through the Gulf.
Right.
The
Gulf. Isn't it going into Tampa, though?
I don't know.
Okay. You didn't read far enough?
No. I read the headline.
Yeah. Well, you're good at that. By the way, before we get back to hurricanes, let's shift gears again. Did you get any comments about mansplaining?
None. I was actually going to ask you about that. We haven't been canceled yet, so I'd say we're good.
I haven't gotten any comments. Maybe our numbers. We need to check our numbers. Maybe
our numbers are good.
Are they good?
Yeah, they're staying
solid.
steady.
Okay, back to hurricanes.
Okay.
So,
mansplain me about these hurricanes.
How old were you when you were
I was
in your 20s?
22.
Okay. And you had never experienced anything like that. You go down to Florida. Did you own or rent the place you lived in?
We were renting.
Renting?
And because of that, we weren't allowed to board the house up because we didn't own the property. All we could do was duct tape cardboard to the windows.
And where was it in Florida you lived?
Poinciana, about 40 minutes south of Orlando.
Gotcha. And was it a coastal town?
No, we're right in the middle.
In the middle.
Yeah, we're like right in the center.
All right, so this thing was going to make landfall on a coastal town on the Gulf side or the Atlantic side?
It was the Atlantic side.
It came into the Atlantic side. All right. So at least there was going to be some landfall to buffer it a little before it hit you guys, right?
Yeah, but it's still we were in the big one for about 18 hours.
Okay. Well, we're going to get to the in it part, but I want to talk about the days leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Before I put my layer of paint on things, what was that like for you? Like, what was it like in the days leading up? What do you remember? Just the emotion and the feeling.
I had no frame of reference for a hurricane. I mean, I've been through severe weather. That's about as far as it goes. So I just kind of assumed it was like that. I mean, I was on edge, but like I said, I had no frame of reference. So I really didn't know what to expect.
But what was the community like?
We didn't really know any of our neighbors, but everybody was either leaving or boarding up their homes. Trina and I spent a lot of time standing outside watching everybody else either go or stay and board up.
All right. What was the, if you were 22, how old are you now?
I'm 40.
Okay, so this was about 18 years ago. So 2004? 2003?
Yeah, it was 2004. It was right when we moved to Florida. Logan was 2 weeks old, so it's not long after.
So I'm thinking about technology-wise. I guess you had cell phones and everything.
We moved there in July and we moved back in October because that's when the house had gotten destroyed. Was right. So we were there for about another, we were there for like 28 days after the hurricane. Then we moved back.
I went through 5 or 6 of these things, and we lived in Pensacola, we lived in a coastal town. I mean, there's Pensacola Beach, Pensacola, but I mean, literally, it was less than 3 miles from my house to Pensacola Bay, and then another few miles in the Gulf. When these things would say that they were coming into the Pensacola Mobile Bay Area, you knew you were going to take a shot. When I was a kid, it was before we had cell phones. What would happen is if one of these storms started developing down in the Caribbean, at school they would hand out hurricane tracking maps with coordinates on them. You'd listen to the radio and it would tell you the latitude and longitude of the hurricane.
Is there math involved?
It's basically latitude is fatitude, it's left to right, and longitude is longitude, and it's up and down, right?
Okay.
And so you would get the coordinates and you would bring them together, and that's where it'd be. It'd give you the coordinates.
So it really wasn't
that tough. Everybody in our area had these hurricane tracking maps, and you would tune in to the radio stations. And the radio stations, about every hour would give you updated coordinates, and you would start tracking where this thing was going. These things, you could start to see them if they'd turn or if they'd not. They'd go into South Florida, but not.
Right.
As a kid, number one, you put all your faith in your parents to do what you're supposed to be doing. But it was like everybody went into survival mode. It was like bored by non-perishable food items. My parents would I remember specifically when we would finish a gallon of milk, my mom would bleach clean the milk cartons and save them. Because if we had a hurricane, you filled all those up with water.
Oh, yeah.
Filled them up with water, and they had these little tabs you could put in a gallon of water that were like a preservative for the water to where, keep it without it developing bacteria, since it wasn't airtight. You get transistor radios out, kerosene lamps out, candles, flashlights, batteries, and, of course, Dad would be doing the windows. And I remember we had like this big swing set thing that we'd have to, like, my dad would take extension cords and wrap it to trees to try to keep it from, even though it was anchored, things like that. I just remember it was like the whole community shifted from doing anything at work. Like, you weren't in school, nobody was at their place of work. They were all in survival mode. As it becomes obvious where this thing's coming, you start watching the sky. And it goes from being sunny to partly cloudy. And then it goes from partly cloudy to cloudy and breezy. And one of my biggest memories is Hurricane Frederick. My parents felt like they were ready. And we had already been through 2 other hurricanes, and they said, we've never gone down to the Gulf to look at it when it's getting angry. And PJ, man, I'm telling you something. The power of that body of water, and it was still 70 miles off coast or 100 miles off coast, but to see the difference in the water, and that was before the storm surge and all that. I remember I was young, I was 7 or 8 years old, and I remember thinking, like, in my mind, I started putting together, like, we're going to be like a tidal wave or something, because the sound of that Gulf is like,
Yeah.
And
it's intense.
My parents were still, they wouldn't have had us out there if it was like the storm was going to be here in 10 minutes. We had plenty of time. It was like, I remember then you come home and it's like, and invariably the things would move in overnight. It wasn't, you never sat there and watched them come in during the day. It was like you go to bed and the next thing you know, you hear the howling wind and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But then you wake up and trees down everywhere and just roofs off. And what happens in the hurricanes is they spawn tornadoes within them, and so they're deadly. It's crazy.
We were in the actual hurricane part for about, like I said, for probably about 18 hours.
So it was a slow movie.
It went through us. Then we went into the eye.
Calm.
It's so quiet. It's insanely quiet.
You're in the middle of a storm.
Right. And that was bizarre because, for one, as it's moving through, when you're in the hurricane, it's like nighttime.
Yes.
There is no sun, and it's during the day. It's like a storm at night. It's just like what they say it's like a freight train, but it's like a whole bunch of freight trains nonstop. Things are slamming into the house. The windows are constantly shaking. You hear the roof being torn apart. There's nothing you can do. Then, as you get closer to the eye, it starts to get a little bit lighter and a little bit lighter. And then all of a sudden, it's just quiet. So we go outside. It's a beautiful blue sky above you. The sun's coming down, but you just have this ring. And you can't, it's so wide, you can't see the entire thing, but you can see where you had gone through. But basically, in this big circle around you, it's the ring, the inner ring of the hurricane. And of course, there's debris and everything everywhere. It's been total chaos. But because you're not in the storm anymore, it's complete peace. So we were in the eye for probably about 6 hours. So we had a 6-hour break. And then back into the fray. That's about when the rest of the damage and everything got happened to the house. But yeah, it is scary. It's scary when you're in. Oh yeah, we had no power for 8 days.
Right.
So I'm sorry when I hear people complain about not having power for 45 minutes. Please,
right.
Try having no power, no hot water, no running water for 8 days.
Yeah, and there's a lot of times it's longer than that, right? Down in, like on the Panhandle Islands, like Santa Rosa Island, and because my dad he lived in Navarre, which is an island between Gulf of Mexico and Escambia Bay, and it was I think a couple months before they had power. They could go out there and get stuff out of their house, and the storm surge would literally just cover that island with water. And those houses are built on stilts to where the water goes underneath them, and basically the garages are designed to just wash away. you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, that's not for me. Rebuilding every 2 or 3 years and going through all that, it's just not my cup of tea.
After living through that, I don't understand, because it has gotten more consistent, it seems like, every year.
Every year.
And that was the other thing too. There were 2 elementary. There's a lot of schools there because there's so many people, but there were 2 elementary schools that were near our house. Both of them completely destroyed. So they were going to have to start from scratch to rebuild these elementary schools.
So kids were out of school?
All those kids were out of school, completely displaced, until they could figure out another school that was close enough, or schools that could take them. Yeah, and just take all the, otherwise, because there was no schools for those kids.
A lot of times those schools are like shelters too. So, you have, and I don't know, but I mean, in my community, like, there was these shelters, and you went to them for safety if you didn't have a place to go.
Not these schools.
Oh, yeah, that would be bad. Remember how they tried to set up the Superdome in Hurricane Katrina, and it was just decimated. So, well, anyway, hopefully
good times.
Ian doesn't cause that many problems.
Fingers crossed.
I want to track it and watch where it goes.
Oh, real quick, I'm going to throw this in there, going back to the ride-along.
Oh, yeah.
I have a little surprise for you, but I'm going to make sure it works out. So I may have a surprise for you. Let me put it that way. I may have a surprise for you.
Did you drop it into one of the... Is it like you put it in the video? Like you put it in a video?
What do you mean?
Like a surprise?
No, it's not like... You'll see.
On to more trial this week. So this was a little eye of the hurricane, so to speak, for us to get a little rest. And
no pun intended.
We'll head back into it. But until next time, this has been Law Lite, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. Thank you for always listening. And if you ever need legal representation, give us a shout and check us out on FWHlegal.com and all of our platforms of social media. Give us a shout. Check us out. I caught that. That was pretty good, wasn't it, PJ?
This case should never have come to trial.
I don't think it's fair to call my clients frauds. Because one time I turned into a dog and they helped me. Thank you.
Your Honor, we would like to withdraw our plea of not guilty and enter a plea of guilty.
This trial is a travesty. It's a travesty of a mockery, of a sham, of a mockery, of a travesty, of 2 mockeries of a sham.
If we are to have faith in justice, we need only to believe in ourselves.
And the truth shall set you free.
How do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Oh, guilty, but with a real good excuse.
I think the truth will come forth.
You can't handle the truth.